I don't think that Idris has a nickname as cool as mine. Sergey, how are you?
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're so appreciative of you joining. It's really exciting to see you here. And like we said, maybe next time we'll be able to have you here in person, but love having you on the Zoom. I thought what would be great is maybe we can start with the really hard hitting questions. So Sergey, you've been called the Oracle of Oracles. Now, if you actually were an oracle in Greek mythology, what inconvenient truth about crypto would you whisper to all of us here?
Yeah, so I think there are two that come to mind. One is that due to the large chains and institutions and frameworks, you need a set of payments that is going to work for chains, going to work across the legal framework to enable to happen at scale. So this one chain isn't, you need a set of state that will allow that to work with all the other, others, to work with the TradFi community. In the TradFi, things like Swift, think like fixed, you have a number of different standards that are very well known and well used. And you need a similar type of standard to allow the current blockchain will grow and become more successful in the next stage. The other this is the more part of the conversation here, is that the user industry still, and if it's their experience, then what's going to happen, everyone is going to opt out of self-custody, and they're going to opt into service providers. So they're going to give their keys over to whoever their current system provider is, whoever they currently use, whoever their bank is, whoever their asset manager is. And then that asset manager, that bank, will become the access point that user uses to interact with and chain things. And so if we believe in a world of self-custody, and if we believe in this self-sovereign world, it's very clear now that the blocker to that is the user experience and the UI. And so whoever can crack that problem will solve a very big problem for our industry.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Just from a technical perspective, I just want to make sure we're good on the mics and the sound, everyone. Sergey, I think that's actually a wonderful kind of segue into kind of this question that I've had, which is, there is a lot moving in terms of the global finance landscape right now. Certainly, I think the usability, the UI, the UX, all of that is critically important. Maybe I would love to get your thoughts on what's kind of the most significant force that's actually reshaping global finance right now.
Deglobalization is a very serious issue facing lots of industries, driven by various political differences and political priorities between different countries. So deglobalization is a trend that I think will hit a traditional financial system much, much more than it will impact the crypto, the Web3, or the digital asset version of the traditional financial system. So what you really have here is a pattern where a more open, more globally accessible, easier to join system, financial system, is actually very valuable, because the traditional system was very geographically concentrated. Each country has its own little version of a financial system. And then they depended on the willingness of everyone to interconnect those individual local financial systems into a web of financial systems under a set of rules and standards. Now, if that willingness to interconnect starts to fall apart because of deglobalization, if various parties in the current financial system don't necessarily trust that their ability to transact is going to be guaranteed, then what the crypto system does is it provides a guaranteed way to transact, right? So it provides a way where if I want to transact from Brazil to Singapore, and I want to do it with stable coins, and I want to do it against tokenized soybeans, which is an example of something we've done with the Brazil Central Bank. and others in Asia, and a number of great partners in Brazil, you might end up in a world where the crypto way of doing it, the blockchain way of doing it, the digital asset way of doing it is the cheaper, faster, and less risky way than the possibility of having a transaction stuck in the traditional financial system. And this deglobalization trend is very, very much accelerating that. Other than that, I would say any kind of local instability in a country or in the neighboring countries generally massively increases crypto adoption and massively increases stablecoin adoption. So you have the global instability of deglobalization, you have, whatever the local instability problems are of that country. But both of those very large forces of instability actually lead to more adoption of digital assets, crypto rails, DeFi, and even TradFi issued and TradFi generated stablecoins and crypto. So I think that it's very beneficial for our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's actually really interesting. I mean, when I think about from a regulatory standpoint, you kind of have this set of participants, the set of non-participants, and then the set of like semi-participants there. And so do you feel like there needs to be consistency across the board from a regulatory perspective for this to really take effect? How much impact will that have on kind of the trend of allowing crypto adoption to really make these transformative changes?
It's actually really interesting because in certain countries where the regulatory system or the central banking system doesn't really work in the way that people want, they're able to sidestep it, which is a powerful way for crypto and Web3 rails to grow. And then in the places where Web3 rails and Web3 approaches to transactions and value and finance have historically been seen as negative, namely the United States, the story has changed completely in the other direction, where you're basically now seeing the US government become extremely pro-crypto. So at this point, the slow adoption of crypto was driven by like a subculture and an early adopter community. And that subculture and early adopter community had a certain set of use cases which weren't the mainstream use cases. But now, your point about regulatory agreement, if the United States decides that it agrees that it wants all of this crypto adoption, then really the rest of the world tends to follow the US on regulatory matters because they want to be compatible with the US market. They don't want to be locked out of it because their regulations are incompatible with the US market regulations. So I think we're once again, in this case, now at this moment in time, in the best of both worlds. We're in a world where if your local economy, your central bank isn't doing what you want to do, you have a growing and better alternative financial system. And in the places where your central bank and regulator is doing the job, they're increasing crypto. And they're increasing, I think, going to align against the US's views on crypto, which are now extremely positive. So it's once again on this question really the best of both worlds.
Yeah, amazing. Sergey, I would love to maybe focus a little bit on Chainlink and what you guys have done in terms of impact to ecosystems. You know, you have some pretty phenomenal products that you've released. Obviously, CCIP is something important, but I'd love to maybe get your sense in terms of how have ecosystems benefited from Chainlink, and if to the extent you can contextualize it with some numbers, would love to hear it from you.
Sure. So Chainlink has enabled over 25 trillion US dollars in transaction value. It's the most widely used standard for data and many other things in the Web3 community and the TradFi community. We power over 60%, I think close to over 70% of DeFi globally. And we end up in a place where you have something called the Chainlink effect, where basically there are so many applications that rely on Chainlink as a reliable source of data, connectivity. In coming months and years, I think they'll rely on it for compliance and many other key operations that they need to be successful on chain. That once you have Chainlink launch on your chain, or once you enable Chainlink in your ecosystem, you see an increase in the total value in DeFi, you see an increase in the applications being built, you see an increase in the reliability and security of the applications that are working correctly in your ecosystem. And so generally what Chainlink, I think, has done is it's created this reliable, global, open infrastructure that has enabled DeFi as a well-known use case. Today, right now, Chainlink secures over $100 billion at rest.
Yeah.
And so that is powering, very, very large players like Aave and others. At the end of the day, I think what Chainlink does is it provides this missing piece of standardization and this missing piece of highly reliable infrastructure to solve key problems that blockchains never set out to solve, but that need to be solved. So data problems to provide market prices on chain for DeFi, reliable cross-chain connectivity where you don't have your tokens being stolen, reliable compliance so the TradFi sector can enter the public blockchain world. All of these problems rely on the synchronization of the off-chain world with the on-chain world. And I think the large and growing real-world asset trend, which includes stable coins, for which Chainlink is a provider of proof of reserves, is going to only grow, right? So you're going to see more real-world assets. The real-world assets are going to require more and more Oracle-related things. They're going to require proof of reserves, data, compliance, cross-chain, and Chainlink providing that in a way where all the applications and the users of the applications can rely on the system and on the token and on the financial product, because in the back end, in the pipes, it's reliably operating. That's what I think Chainlink provides the industry as a whole.
That's awesome. Sergey, I'm cognizant of time, and we really appreciate you having you here. I think this is a conference with a tremendous number of Stellar builders that are here, and we're really excited about the potential opportunity ahead for Chainlink and Stellar. And I guess maybe if you could leave us with a parting thought. I think incentive alignment across all of these different operators within a blockchain, whether it's the chains, the projects, the institutions, that is a really hard thing. What lessons would you potentially give us here at Stellar and with our builders based on what you've seen that we should adopt?
I think highly reliable oracles from Chainlink's a great thing. Don't need to explain more about that. I think reliable bridging is important. I think building real world assets is a really good use case that's going to define the industry in the coming years. I think there's only so many cryptocurrencies and meme coins and NFTs that can be made. And I'm a fan of all of them, and I'm a fan of our industry, and I'm a fan of all the value that's brought into our industry and how that's grown our industry. But I think the next stage of our industry really is the real-world asset tokenization boom, whether that's in a stablecoin form, whether those are commodity coins like gold coins, tokenized funds, tokenized equity. The legal system and the regulatory system that was previously opposed to the tokenization of these real-world things has now completely flipped their position, and they've decided that's what they want, and that's what they're going to encourage. And so it's a really unique opportunity where I think if you make high-quality real-world asset project, and that real-world asset project is backed by reliable technology, reliable Oracle, reliable cross-chain, reliable systems, and you do it in a way that complies with the more and more permissive laws that allow you to make a stable coin, that allow you to make a tokenized fund, a tokenized equity, a tokenized real-world asset of some type, then you'll be able to generate something that has a large long-term potential and can still be unique at this early stage of the real-world asset industry. I think we're going to look back on this stage of the real-world asset industry and say, it was obvious that making a high quality real world asset product for protocol or lending market or some financial on chain system relating to real world asset is a good idea.
Amazing. Sergey, thank you so much for spending the time here with us. We really appreciate it. And I'm really looking forward to the continued conversations we're having.
Me too. Thank you for having me. Good to see all of you. Thank you.